G'day reefers, I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Thanks for watching Gallery Aquatica TV. Over the last few months you've seen us install quite a number of Red Sea Reefer tanks. Today we're going to have a close look at one that's been running for quite some time and exactly what it takes to maintain this tank. So before we run you through the componentry that's on this tank, let's have a look at the fish and the corals. So the first thing you'll notice with this tank is this massive colony of Aquatica. Now this has actually come from a tank shutdown quite recently, and some of the other corals and fish that are in this tank have also come from that tank shutdown. There's some anthias in this tank, a blue tang, a sailfin tang, a foxface, there's a chotes wrasse. The fish are all looking really happy and healthy. There is one really interesting fish, something we don't typically put into a reef tank. There's a Picasso trigger. Now, so far, this Picasso trigger hasn't caused any problems, but it's definitely something that I would keep an eye on to ensure that it doesn't start to pick at any of the corals. So there's also a hammer garden, there's a Dallas colony, some bubble corals. The corals are looking really happy. The Illumagic light that's on this tank has been recently installed, and that's made a big difference to the health of the corals. Let's have a look underneath the tank at the filtration in this system. So we've looked at the sumps on these Red Sea Reefers on quite a few of the installations that we've done. The sump is effectively divided into the front section, which has got the filter socks, and then this section over here, which has got both a front and a back section, the skimmer being the only thing really which is in the back. And in the front here there's a heap of biological media, and this is what I particularly like. I like systems which are strong with their biological media so that you can ensure that the waste is well and truly processed. This is actually a light. Behind that light there is a small section of keto. Something that I think would really benefit from, this tank would benefit from, would be a stronger light to grow the keto a little bit more efficiently. We'll have a look in the next cupboard and see what's in there. So this is something I actually find a little bit interesting. The chiller is a TK500. Now typically we would go for a larger model of the Tico, but seemingly because of the low ambient temperature in this room, the Tico 500 is actually doing the job quite well, and the tank is running at 24 degrees Celsius. So now we'll run you through exactly what it takes to maintain this system. Before we start any maintenance on the tank, the first thing we do is turn off the power. So we want to turn off the return pump, the wave makers, the skimmer. The main thing we want to keep on is the light. And now with this tank, it's very easy. All of those componentries that we want to turn off are on the one power board. So we just turn off this, and then this one as well. And so that's everything turned off, apart from the light, and this means we can very easily maintain the tank. You'll notice that this tank has quite a deep substrate bed. Now the potential problem with this is that you can have detritus building up, especially underneath the rockwork. So I'm going to do a light gravel vac of this system. This tank has really good water flow. There's 3 Gaia style wave makers in this tank, and when the water is flowing you can really see it churning, and so I'm not expecting there to be too much detritus trapped in the substrate, but I'll give it a gravel vac and we'll have a look. So given the depth of the substrate, the water that's coming up out of the gravel, the sand, is really clean. So I'm just going to do this a very light gravel vac. It doesn't really need it. So over the years of doing aquarium maintenance, something that I've really learned is that it's a good idea to have quite a long hose on your gravel vac. And the reason for this is I can walk to either end of the tank and my hose is still in the bucket. So that way I don't have to move my bucket as I go down the tank. We're not going to clean out the filter socks today. They're actually looking pretty good and the water isn't overflowing over them. So the only thing we need to clean in the sump is going to be a single filter sponge, which is in the back here just before the return pump. Now, it's always a good idea with any biological media that you rinse it in water that's come out of the tank, and this preserves the beneficial bacteria that's trapped inside. So I'll give this a clean. Doesn't need to be too thorough. We're just really getting out the bulk of the debris. Okay. That's it. And now I'll put it back in place. So the other thing we do need to clean in the sump is the skimmer. Now, with the Red Sea skimmers, you get these long hoses that allow you to drain the cup out. There's not much waste in the cup at the moment, but I might as well drain it out before I take the cup off to clean. There we go. Put it back there. So these Red Sea skimmers have got a neck cleaner. So this one's actually jammed and come off, but you can see the amount of waste on this. I'm going to need something pretty serious to clean this. A scrubbing brush would be good, but all I've got is a scouring pad. So the idea with these skimmers is that you don't really need to cut the cup off all that often to clean. However, when you do take the cup off, it is a bit of work. Alright, so I'll just put that back in place. So of course the idea is that you spin this manually and that will then dislodge the organic waste inside the neck. But I'll give this a clean manually just to make it look a bit nicer. Alright, I'll put the hose back on and the lid. Alright, so now we'll be able to use that again by twisting it. And now I'll put it back on the skimmer. With a Red Sea Reefer of this size, you do need to consider your source of water when you're doing a water change. Now, given that we have got very good source of natural seawater very close to us, we will generally use that when we do our water changes. And with a tank of this size, 50% water change will equate to around about 300 or 400 litres. So we've brought water with us on the back of the ute and we're going to drain the tank and pump the new water into this tank. So we'll start by draining. Put this hose here. And we're going to use this same hose to refill the tank, but I'll go start the draining now. So we've drained the tank down 50% and I'm just putting some water over the polyps of the LPS just to help them to retract a little bit. We're going to fill the tank up really quickly, so it won't be a problem, but I like to just keep the corals wet. So whilst this is purging, I'm going to go set up the pump. Just turned the pump off and we've stopped pumping water into the tank. Now at this stage, what I look for is the level in the sump. And I can see that it's actually quite full. It's probably where it needs to be, but I'm going to turn everything back on, including the return pump, and ensure that the level in the sump is correct. So as the return pump fires up, the level in the rear section where the return pump is sitting will drop and it'll feed the water up into the tank. So it takes a few minutes for the water to settle out and the levels to stay. We do a water change like this approximately every 4 weeks. Now the client does the occasional small water change, a little bit of a gravel vac, maybe 10% at the most, but we find that these big water changes really help with the water chemistry, keeping the nitrate and phosphate low. We do get a lot of people ask the question about when we do big water changes, how do we ensure that we maintain stability with the parameters? And the goal is normally for us to run our systems at parameters which are very close to natural seawater, so that when we do a large water change, we're not causing too much of a shift in the calcium, the KH, or the magnesium. So that's our job done for today. Everything's gone well. The fish and the corals are looking very happy. So hopefully you've learned a little something about how to maintain a large Red Sea Reefer like this one. I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Happy reefing.
So that's our video for today. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe as well. We'll be putting out videos every week showing a new tank with new products. There's going to be lots in all the videos. I'm Cam the Fish Guy, and keep on reefing.